These images coming in of the Indian Prime Minister meeting Prime Minister Kishida. I want to quickly also bring in our two guests in the studio on these images. And, I have with me in the studio Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat, Executive Council member, Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defence Studies and Analysis, President of Institute of Global Studies as well. Rajiv Dogra, former Ambassador of Italy. Mr. Dogra, I want to bring you in on these images. It's very interesting, especially it's a tightrope diplomatic walk. India's relationship with China has deepened over time, but having said that, Japan also chairs the G7, very, very vocal on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Though India, if one read into what the Prime Minister said this morning, there is an encrypted Ukraine message there as well. So there is a change in stance. But where Japan's role on the Delhi Declaration, which has been much speculated, is concerned, what are your views, Ambassador?
Well, I think Japan basically follows the line given by the West. So really we are talking about the line taken by West, or the stand taken by the West, vis-a-vis the stand taken by Russia along with China. So it's a battle of wits. The victory of one side or the other is not so important in terms of Ukraine, but in terms of their view of the world order as it will emerge in the months and years to come. So there are two sides to the issue. One is the optics that emerge out of the meeting with or without the declaration. If it is without the declaration, then Russia and Chinese side have got the upper hand. If it is with the declaration, then India's mediatory efforts have succeeded and West can also go back happy home. Biden in particular, it will probably help him in his ratings back home, which are quite low at the moment. So I think it is a battle of wits which is going on, or a game of chess which is going on, where each side is trying its best to outwit the other side. But more than that, I think the central message of Prime Minister to Mr. Putin in the SCO summit in Uzbekistan, that has been lost sight of. And that message was, this is not the age of war.
Right.
This is the time for peace. So if something positive emerges out of this meeting, there will be a reassurance that if there is balance now in the summit, perhaps the Ukraine issue can also be solved by a balanced view from all sides.
Well, there seems to be a change in stance where even India comes into the question, from not wanting to address Ukraine at all. There, the message was encrypted in the Prime Minister's speech earlier this day, and a very sobering message at that. But, I'm going to come to you, Mr. Sajjanhar, but I want to bring in my colleague Polumi just once. We don't have Polumi with us, but like I pointed out, there was a short window, and that window of that bilateral now closing. It was about a 1.5 window till about 3 p.m., but optics still coming out from those meetings, very short. I'd bring you into this conversation where Japan's role, and especially when it comes down to the suspense surrounding the Delhi Declaration, is concerned, Mr. Sajjanhar. It's a tightrope walk where it's concerned, especially where you have the influence of China and then, of course, signing up with the West on its stand on the Russia-Ukraine war.
Yeah, Preeti, I would like to put it in 2 or 3 different perspectives. One is as far as the Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned, and there I think it is basically Russia which comes in as far as, having objection to the manner in which the war is, the conflict is reflected. And China, of course, is trying to, piggyback ride on whatever Russia is saying, because it also wants to scuttle any attempts to, wants to maintain its unity with Russia, and also wants to scuttle any attempts at, coming to a declaration, a unanimous consensus declaration, because, that would add to the heft of India if India is able to get a clean text out of it. Secondly, on the part of China itself, in addition to Ukraine, it has been raising a large number of objections, whether it is on the whole issue of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, trying to get its Belt and Road Initiative also put into the joint declaration, also objecting to this formulation of the life mission.
Even the inclusion of the African Union.
Yes, I think there have been some reports about that, but I don't have any conclusive sort of, way, because I don't know how any country can really object to the inclusion of the African Union. But what was being mentioned was that possibly they don't want it to be done at this time, so that, all the credit is not taken by India. And
yes.
It moves forward to Brazil, South Africa, and they would be quite happy. But I think as we saw the manner in which Prime Minister Modi did it this morning, in full view and glare of all the cameras and the international press and media, I think there was no way that China or anyone else could have objected, even though they might have had some reservations or misgivings about it. So I think that was really a very fine coup de grace that was landed by Prime Minister Modi, and we have been able to get the African Union. But coming back to the point, Preeti, that I was making, as far as China is concerned, it has its own issues because it does not want the glory to be taken by India. And I think that was one of the reasons, the important reason why Xi Jinping himself didn't come. So it will really depend upon the, diplomatic prowess and finesse of the Indian negotiators, whether they are able to get all of them together. I think by and large they sound cautiously optimistic. The last point on the Japan issue that I would like to mention is, I think it is definitely in the interest of Japan, of the United States, of Europe, of G7, that this should be a successful Indian presidency. Because if it is not successful, then it is, goes to malign India, and it is advantage China, which is something I'm sure that they would not like. So I'm sure they will definitely support that we are able to get to an agreed text, so that, India and the other countries can also come out smelling of roses, so to say, that we've been able to achieve this, very tough balancing act.
Whether there's consensus on the Delhi Declaration or not, or it's something like what we saw where the Bali Declaration was concerned, that's to be, mulled on later and possibly analyzed later. But the sheer fact that we've been able to convert a G20 to a G21, I would reckon where the history of the summit is concerned is big enough, and we're going to continue to touch on that. But let's take you through the big ticket moments through the course of the day, and it started right early this morning. Prime Minister Modi welcoming the world leaders at the Bharat Mandapam to the G20 Summit. You had Prime Minister Modi welcoming a host of world leaders, including US President Joe Biden, UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. He'd be meeting with her later. Chinese Premier Li Qiang, Australian Prime Minister Albanese, amongst many other tall leaders. World Bank Chief Ajay Banga, UN Secretary General Antonio, IMF Chief Kristalina were amongst the first to arrive at the newly built venue, Bharat Mandapam, at the Pragati Maidan.